On the 31st of December 2021, President Muhammadu Buhari signed into law the 2022 budget of 17.12 trillion naira passed by the National Assembly. The budget, which is 18% higher than the 2021 budget, is the largest in Nigeria's history. The 2021 budget, which was conceived to accelerate the recovery of Nigeria's economy and facilitate the completion of critical projects as well as improve the general living conditions of Nigerians, is fraught with its own challenges, as the government is committed to borrowing to fund capital projects in the budget. Against this backdrop, the enactment of the Finance Act 2022, which is aimed at driving revenue generation to fund the budget, has been described to be an impediment to the growth of development of businesses, especially the business community, especially small and medium enterprises, which are the engine room of every economy. To help us understand the impact of the 2020 budget on businesses, I have joining me virtually from Abuja. He is the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. He is also the former DG of Abuja Chamber of Commerce. Good afternoon, Dr. Ekechukwu. It's good to see you this new year.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tolu. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, it's never late to say Happy New Year. Now, Dr. Ekechukwu, looking at this document, before we speak too much of, that grammar that people will like to understand, let's stay with the basics of this. In your thoughts, what do you really think are the positives in this document for business people? We've seen the 10% on the carbonated drinks. We can go on and on. We expect subsidy removal. A lot is in the plate for us to grapple with. But first, give us your view on what you think this holds for the business community.
First of all, I think the 2022 budget looks promising. Promising because for the first time, there's a projection that the non-oil sector is going to be contributing about 65% revenue, and of course the oil sector providing about 35% revenue. This is the first time, in many years that we're going to have this kind of projection. And before now, we have always said that the problem of Nigeria has been a shortfall of revenue and revenue and revenue. So we are going to run a budget that is going to have a 65% of revenue base coming from non-oil sector. And that is just what we have coming through the Finance Act that is been signed into law also, where a whole lot of items have been brought into the tax net for more and more inflows into the revenue base of Nigeria to happen. So it is a welcome development because it also removes us from the volatility of oil price, which has always affected us adversely each time it drops adversely. So we're going to be having a situation where even if the oil price drops drastically, we're not going to start panicking because the oil price dropped, because we have other major sources of revenue and constituting about 65%. So what is important is just for us to make sure that the target we have set for ourselves to have 65% of non-oil sector constituting our revenue base be achieved. If it is so achieved, then we can say kudos to the government, especially in the fiscal side of government.
It's a good way to start, but you actually leading me to another question that I would like to ask, staying with the non-oil sector. Are we set to really take advantage of the prospects that we have in this sector? The sector is yet to contribute enough to support government, and we know that there is this revenue issue. Do you think that all has been set for the non-oil sector to continue to explore and we can get more money from it?
Yeah, to the extent of implementation of the Finance Act, to that extent, I said yes. The first action taken by government was just to sign it into law. But I also know that the non-oil sector, which has contributed up to 70 to 80% of our GDP, probably about 70% of our GDP, is not contributing before now, was not contributing a lot to the revenue base. So what that tells you is that there's a major gap between the private sector and the public sector. To the extent that, yes, the non-oil sector is contributing a lot to GDP, but not contributing a lot to revenue base. So what it means is that government needs to do a whole lot to generate a lot of revenue from the non-oil sector. Apart from the taxes and the fees and the levies that come in that space, we need to also get into business of generating our own income in the non-oil sector space. So that gap still exists, but whether we are ready, yes, we can say we have started being ready by the signing of that act into law. So that's first of all to show readiness. For somebody who has to go to school, you want to first of all pay school fees, and then before you can be sure that you're going to go to school. So I think for now we have paid the school fees by signing into law. So everything will just be taken care of.
The budget has a deficit that remains very worrisome, and that has raised concerns from all concerned parties. Are you worried about that too?
The size of the deficit is huge. If we're talking about 35% of our budget being the deficit side of it, we're talking about 6.3 trillion. That's a huge amount of money to be filled. So also what that tells us is that we are going to continue to borrow, which I don't have a problem with, but we know that right now, even as the benchmark of oil is about $62 per barrel as benchmarked against what the price of oil is today. Already right now, once the budget starts being implemented, we're going to be having some profit already, some gains from that budget already. So if we add together the gains that may come from that gap between the budget projection benchmark and the current oil price, you can see that we're already having some benefits from that particular gap right now. So it is an amount I think we can actually bridge, either with this kind of gains we're already going to make from now, and of course from the kind of projection made concerning the taxes to be received and the revenue to be gotten therefrom. So these are some of the things we need to look at. That way our fears could just be reduced. So my fear has actually been reduced when I saw the benchmark of oil price and then where the oil price is today.
Now, when we talk about borrowing, we've talked a lot about borrowing and the debt issue, but our managers, economic managers, continue to say we only have a revenue challenge and not a debt sustainability problem. That has been the argument. Now, many now say, yes, infrastructure development is majorly what government says. We want to keep pumping in funds, which everyone knows is agreeable. But some are saying we can look the other way. That's PPP, the public-private partnership angle. Looking at sovereign green bonds program and, of course, other means of fixing infrastructure other than borrowing. What's your thoughts around this?
I agree with the school of thought that said we need to actually open the doors of our infrastructural development to private partnership, and knowing that a good number of the private people are there waiting to be invited to get into various infrastructural developments. They are there. They have these idle funds that they want to invest into certain countries. Nigeria is a very good bride for such opportunity, and so we need to get into that. And the only fear about PPP is the fact that the cost of building such infrastructures and transferring the cost to the citizens of Nigeria will actually worsen probably the inflation that we have today, and probably worsen the cost of existence. But otherwise, for us to really have the kind of infrastructure we're looking for, we need to open our doors to major investors who are ready to do business with their monies and get them recovered over the years. So I agree with that aspect. To the extent that we have to use our borrowed funds to be doing only capital projects, I also do not think it's the right thing to do in total. We have to get into certain businesses, certain businesses actually that can generate revenue for the country. You know, if we do infrastructure and there is no money coming in, we have actually expended a lot to do infrastructure. So we need to do that, which will get us some benefits in terms of revenue, knowing that there are many countries with all kinds of infrastructure, all kinds of revenue base coming from tourism and many other areas. We have seen many countries where their tourism base is so high and their revenue base from such areas so high. And there are many other things the country can do actually to generate money into our revenue base. So we need to expand our frontiers of thinking, business thinking, and use experts and actually listen to the experts and make sure that these experts give us what we want, and then we listen to them and implement what they're saying. It's not always good in economic terms to borrow money to continue to do capital projects. We need to actually look at other areas where we can generate revenue from even the money is being put into capital budget.
Let's talk a little bit about revenue mobilization. And one of the means that we clearly know that government is staying with is enhancing taxes and, of course, excise revenues. That is one way that we see that government is really pushing so hard. We've seen that even with the help of the Finance Act and all of that. Another way, another I would like to comment on is also preserving proceeds from the oil and gas industry. Many say more transparency and all of that is also needed, and that's what the PIA obviously should come bring on board. Now, what do you make of all of this revenue mobilization initiatives of government?
Yeah, you already said it, Tolu. You said a whole lot of it in the form of your preliminary questions. We already have a lot of leakages in the system. You know, for many years, we had the gas flaring that kept on happening and still happening up to today. I remember one of the MDs of one of the major oil companies telling us that anytime government is serious about stopping gas flaring, that they will stop it. There was no major serious policy statement meant to stop gas flaring. That's the major area of revenue we have ignored, and you know, until we are serious about it, we'll continue to lose revenue from that end. From the oil sector, the ones that we already have, you know, a whole lot of things are going to be happening if we start refining our oil within this country. A lot of byproducts of this crude oil are there, a whole lot of them, carbon black, a lot of them that we are actually losing revenues from. So it is for us to identify areas of revenue we have not been doing so well in. When we even look at the taxes that we're already collecting, a lot of multi-billionaires are not even paying any tax, close to 10% of what they're supposed to be paying. Just because it's either the kind of businesses they do are such that the government cannot track, or they are either untouchables, or some other things we do not know. But anytime we're very efficient about our collections, we can generate a lot of money. But thank God the Finance Act came on board to include certain things into the tax nets, and we expect that is going to increase our revenue base. But we need to do better. We need to do better in terms of being efficient in tracking the kind of income, the kind of revenues people are getting in order to tax them appropriately. That we are not doing right now. The only major people we are sure of getting their real tax are the people that pay as you earn. That one you cannot dodge it. Every other many institutions, you know, downplay their profitability in order for them to pay less, and we don't have any system to track to know who is doing the right thing and who's not doing the right thing. Anytime we deploy enough ICT into tax business, we're going to be getting better revenue base from that moment.
Dr. Ekechukwu, before I let you go, we've been talking about the timeliness of this budget. We're talking about appropriation act, January to December cycle, which many say is commendable, helps businesses plan and all of that. Now we've started that again in 2022. But I want to ask you, what do you think about government instituting something like a monitoring and evaluation scheme? Yes, I know they do it maybe at the FEC level and all of that, but what do you think, so that we can always at every point monitor, evaluate and assess the state of implementation? Many say Nigeria is not short of ideas or documents, but it's proper implementation that has always been a challenge. How does this come to you?
I agree with that we need to do proper fiscal responsibility business. Now, it's not going to start from when the budget has been signed into law. It starts from the various ministries and parastatals preparing their budgets. You see that the kind of budgets we see today by these ministries and parastatals are budgets where, I can call it incremental budget, but of course the people who prepare the budget call it zero budgeting system, but it's not zero, because all you get is that the budget is increased by a certain percentage, and I call it incremental. Now, these are ministries and parastatals that already have various assets. And in the next budgeting year, you still see them repeat all those things they wrote before. And this is very worrisome. So we need to start from that end. If there is any way we can just, from ministry to ministry and parastatal to agency, we make sure we check and prune every budget before they get to the National Assembly. You know, because once we can actually eliminate those things we don't need and put only those things we need, then we can be seen to be monitoring and doing well with our budget. But today, you and I and many Nigerians know that what we see in the budget books are even items that appeared there the previous year, and no new office created, yet we have every item duplicated and they will increase in number. That is where we have to start from. In implementing it, implementing is a secondary thing. It has to come as a secondary thing. The most important thing is just to even get it from the table at the point of preparing the budget by the various ministries and parastatals. If we can actually do that, then implementing it can just be easily done, and we can achieve more from there.
On a final note, now I'm going to ask you this because I know you're a member of the business community, and you get feelers from everywhere. As we're moving in 2022, what are your thoughts for businesses generally? Because some are already worried, thinking of paying new taxes, thinking of increasing the present tax, and all of that. And economies are just picking up all around the world thanks to COVID-19, and we're still grappling with the Omicron variant. Putting all of this together, what are your projections for the business community in 2022?
Yeah, Nigeria still remains a very good destination for businesses, whether from local business people or from foreign direct investors. Nigeria still remains a very good place because even the Finance Act made it easy for smaller businesses to grow by taking off certain taxes from them and making sure that until your turnover gets to a particular point, you're not going to be paying taxes, and removing certain people from paying payee from their income. So making it a little conducive for such categories of businesses. I know that, yes, a whole lot of hiccups happen in Nigeria. Of course, the ease of doing business has been there. We've seen a lot of it on paper. We haven't seen a lot of action to be able to make the ease of doing business have the same ease we preach. But we need to take the items of the ease of doing business one after the other and give ourselves a head count to know whether we have achieved, what percentage of it have we improved on, and we take them one after the other. We don't even need to take all of them. We can take the very, very critical ones and deal with them one after the other and see how well we have done in each of these things, measure ourselves and score ourselves, and change policies just to make sure that we have improvements. But if we just keep talking about ease of doing business and the actions are not overtly there to support all that we're saying, then we wouldn't have been moving forward. But so far, I think Nigeria is a good destination for doing business, and that is why you still see people coming, irrespective of the insecurity in the country and a whole lot of headwinds that exist in the country. We need to be courageous, and we need to know that this is just the place to be to do business.
Well, it's always interesting talking to you. I must thank you, MD CEO, Dignity Finance and Investment Limited, Dr. Chijioke Ekechukwu. Thank you so much for spending your Monday afternoon with us. We really appreciate this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.